So, welcome to the Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder. And today I have a guest coming from Charlotte, North Carolina. He has a passion to work with entrepreneurs to help them bring big changes to grow their business. He has a love and passion for the people, processes, and services of the construction industry. Over 2 years working with New Leaf Construction, both as a salesman and as a construction sales consultant. The company went from doing a couple 100,000 a year to well over 1 million a year, and then also in the first 12 months at Daniel Enterprise, where he also worked, he was able to bring in over 2 to 6 million in sales and help the sales team to more than double year over year as of June 2018. His overall goal is to make people have faith in the construction industry using better sales processes and communication. Mike Claudio, welcome to the Real Build. How you doing today, man?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on. I know
Yeah.
we've been talking about this for a little while, so excited to finally get it scheduled.
Yeah. I'm pumped to have you on. I'm pumped to talk some sales talk with you on and construction, obviously, too. Both of us being in the industry, too. So, got a lot of listeners, like I said, that are in construction or thinking about building a home. That's what this show's all about. So, um, just getting started, I always start with talking about your background. So, let's talk about who is Mike Claudio.
Yeah, so I guess corporate America was my where I started, Verizon Wireless. College didn't work out for me. Got into corporate America, did retail sales, retail leadership, B2B sales, B2B leadership before I exited corporate America and joined the remodeling industry, helping New Leaf Construction, a small bathroom kitchen addition guy, kind of grow his business. And I kind of took over sales, marketing, and estimating. That's where I kind of cut my teeth and learned the industry. Then transitioned to Daniel Enterprise, which was a roofing company. Did commercial residential. I was in kind of a player coach role where I had a leadership role as well as I had my own pipeline. So learned a lot in that process. And then over those 5 or 6 years where I helped those two companies grow, a lot of people started asking, "Well, Mike, how do you help me?" I had a lot of success. People saw what I was doing. I kind of turned that into a passion for coaching. And for the last 2 years, I've been Winrate Consulting full time, coaching business owners anywhere from a few 100,000 to 20 to 30 million in revenue. Also this year, actually, I think which will help a little bit more comparative and kind of relative experience. I actually started a demo and grading company this year, so tearing down houses and grading lots, kind of getting back into the industry. So I'm kind of in both worlds now. So I coach businesses, and now I actually own my own quote unquote construction company. So my passion is for helping people and communicating and content. And anybody who's been following me, Winrate Consulting and Big Stud Sales podcast and the YouTube channel, like I just put out a ton of content. So really passionate about that.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. But obviously, the key word that you said in this whole thing too is communication. I mean, and we're going to touch
Huge.
on this big time because it's in any sales environment, but it's in the construction industry. There's a lot of lack of it. So that's why I'm pumped to have you on with that too. But I mean, what I caught out of that too, a lot of the stuff you learned and being as good as you are in sales also came from learning the industry. There's a lot of guys that get in this industry that think they're gonna even with real estate. I deal with real estate too, but there's a lot of people in general that get in the construction industry and think they're going to just kill it in selling and stuff like that, but you actually learn the product, know what you're selling. That's a key thing too, not only just communication but actually learning the product and learning the trades, and you did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I think I had the unique perspective of I came from a highly, you know, trained in a highly professional environment of corporate America, and then like learned the trade separately. Where I think a lot of contractors kind of come up through the ranks. They are, employees, project managers, lead employees, whether it's trades or carpenter or something. And they say, "Well, I can do this better than my boss is doing it," and they never really see the other side of it. Right? There's a lot more
Mhm.
that goes on to the business outside of the operation side, and it's overwhelming to market yourself and sell yourself and be networking and building relationships and managing, new client opportunities. And I was blessed to have that skill set first and then learn the trade side as opposed to the alternative route, which I think, I was able to blend them together. But I think it's definitely a skill set or a superpower of mine from learning the other side first.
Yeah, which is huge too. So you brushed on this a little bit in your intro. So the consulting and what you're doing now, obviously with Winrate,
Mhm.
what was your main reason to do it? Why start getting into consulting? Obviously you're still in the trades and everything, but what was your main reason for it?
I mean, there's, I guess, one selfish reason and one not selfish reason. So the selfish reason, I'll be honest with you, is I was really good at sales and I was outselling the capacity of the businesses I was working for, which kind of handcuffed me to an extent of, I'm kind of throttling my skill set, throttling my activity to meet what our production team could keep up with, which was, obviously scaled over time, but I was always kind of a little bit ahead of it, which was somewhat frustrating. But in general, like, I really have a passion for coaching. I coach baseball, I played baseball, I love just helping people. I'm very passionate about helping people. And when I started realizing that what I was doing with these businesses wasn't common, a lot of people were coming to me, I said, okay, like, hey, I can bring a lot of value to people. I actually coached a few people for free first, just
Yeah.
like, hey, could I do this? Would I even enjoy it? And I grew a couple of businesses by 7 figures for free, just because, like, I was trying to figure it out. It's like 2017, 2018. um, so it was really a passion mixed with a skill set and my ability to communicate and help people understand and train and educate on the systems and processes that made me successful. So I guess the short answer is I'm really passionate about people. And I was kind of feeling a little handcuffed in the positions I was in those companies I worked for.
Yeah, which is it's great what you're doing. I mean, because there's not a lot of you don't see it a lot. You don't see it a lot on social media too. And you said you're doing a lot of content related stuff to help construction related businesses also, but you don't see a lot of people trying to coach these companies and coach these builders too. I mean, because I deal with it probably every builder even listening to this show too deals with it in their market. There's always builders that just don't care. They do it wrong. They just don't care about people. They undercut everybody. They just don't do business the right way. But the people that do the business the right way and learn how to do it the right way too, they last the longest. And there's a lot of busy markets right now, just because of COVID related stuff, where people are moving out of cities and moving, especially to Florida right now. A
Mhm.
ton of people moving down here, like 1,000 people a day. They're saying
It's crazy.
it's insane, but there's a lot of these builders that come out of the woodworks that just take advantage of people too, and just don't care. But then you have builders that actually do care, that need somebody like you to stay open, be consistent, have that communication, and do the things that you're teaching too. So
Well, and you said it kind of early on in kind of my mission statement is to take the fear out of the construction industry, right?
yeah.
Because contractors are just as afraid of clients as clients are contractors, right? And it really happens because of the breakdown in communication, expectation, and proper professionalism, right? And so, just as much as I want to educate contractors, but I want to educate homeowners on what a real contractor looks like too. Because I think, in my opinion, what's hurt the industry is good contractors never learned how to sell, and now they're being outsold by salesmen who don't know how to be contractors. So they're selling a dream they can't deliver on, which really hurts the guy who doesn't know how to sell, right?
Hmm.
And I think they're getting beat. That I would say that wave of contractors that are aging out right now are getting beat by the fast talking, first hard close type guy. Building or service trades and everything in the middle, right? When you have that person that's a really smooth talker that doesn't really have the capacity to back it up, that's what's really hurt this industry. Not contractors
Hmm.
not delivering, but really good salesmen who don't really know what they're doing. And I want to help good contractors differentiate themselves by knowing how to communicate, how to create messaging, how to create content, how to relate to today's ecosystem from a market, right? People who make decisions now on spending, $1 million on a house or $700,000 on a house, is their process is way different even than it was just 5 or 6 years ago. And if you're not adapting to how those people are thinking, and you're not meeting them in their decision process where they are and saying the things that they want to hear and where they want to hear it, you're not going to get to them. So why would you think you're going to be successful from that perspective? You get that from a real estate side,
Hmm.
right? No offense, most real estate agents suck at what they do,
Yeah.
right? And you see it from the other side of the table, right? But like, they might be the faster talker, they might have the better marketing strategy, or they have a better presentation and they win. But those people give real estate agents a bad name because it's the stay-at-home mom that just wants to like do things occasionally and not really know what she's doing. And no offense to stay-at-home moms that are real estate agents, please don't DM me. I'm just saying, it for a fact. Anybody who sat across the table from a real estate agent that does not operate the right way is very confused on how they got there.
Hmm.
Builders are the same way. The problem is we don't sit across from our competition, right? We just lose the deal and hear about it on the other end when that client's 3 years past their completion date and in lawsuits over hundreds of thousands of dollars. At that point, it's too late to fix the problem, right? You're litigated by closing attorneys and escrow, and there's a lot of protection in your world. There's not. Once a client signs a contract, there's a lot of unknowns that are going to happen. And I think a lot of those details, a lot of those risks, a lot of those concerns are predetermined post-contract when you're communicating properly and understanding what to look for, both from a homeowner and a contractor slash builder side.
Yeah, and going back to like you said too, because I see it. I'm seeing it so much. I got builders in my area that are taking on. I heard one of them's taking on like 65 contracts. There's no way this builder can sustain that amount of people. I talked to. It's small town. I know all the realtors. I talked to one of the realtors. One of his clients, without even him even knowing, went to the specific builder, and 3 months went by. Thought they were in for permitting, and they called the builder, and the builder said, "Oh yeah, you fell through the cracks, we forgot to put your stuff in for permit," like stuff like that, to where it was like it's just, it's crazy to me that people, I always tell people, do your research. I mean, it's selling people on what you're going to do, not what you can do, and it's just, it's showcasing actually what you've done in the past too is huge as well.
Well,
You
that's
know
why
what
the
I mean?
content's so important, right? Not just like pretty pictures, but telling the story and
Yeah.
getting on camera and putting your face out there, because that is how research is being done. For like the good clients who know what they're doing and have proper expectations, they are going out and doing the research appropriately. And then what is the story your online presence is selling? If it does
Hmm.
not match the quality of your experience and the quality of the product you put out, you're losing. There's no two ways about it. If your online presence does not match your business quality from an experience or quality for production perspective, you're losing. You got to upgrade that. You got to make that better. You got to spend the money, especially if you're a multi-million dollar, 10, 15, $20 million builder and your online presence isn't up to par. What are you waiting for?
Hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of challenges. It's hard to start, but once you get a routine, get it going, it's actually pretty easy to sustain that online.
Yeah, and it's simple too. I mean, I do content every week. Like I have one of the guys that works with me. I have a camera that I bought. I have him film me walking through job sites. It's that easy. And I film, here's what we're doing at this, just job updates. I'm doing one now segmenting how a house is built down here step by step. And I've already gotten compliments from people. Oh, I saw your How It's Built series. That's awesome. I love watching it, this and that. I mean, one of my series, or one of the steps on that, was the fill, just dirt, but I made it fun. I had a good time with it, and it's adding some comedy, some humor, being myself,
Yeah.
and making people want to see, but they're seeing our product throughout that process too. And I don't get it. There's still a lot of builders in my area that aren't doing content at all. It's a lot of word of mouth, small town, but then again, there's a lot of people just building off a price too. They're going around bidding plans. They don't really care. They don't shop who the builder is and the quality of the builder. They just want to go with that low price, who's the lowest. And I won't even bid it. I always ask them too. I go, who are you bidding first? Because I want to know, because I can't compete with certain people. And if they say a certain person or a certain couple of builders, I won't even waste my time, because it
Do
takes
you charge for your bid process?
no,
Is
no.
that
And
something you
because
consider doing?
no, because nobody in the market does either. So I'll lose out on, that's the problem. It's the market where I'm at, nobody's charging for bids. So it's just, we get the plan, we'll bid it out to us, but I have to ask and kind of do my due diligence too, to where I'm not going to waste my subcontractors' time if they're bidding certain builders that I can't compete with,
Yeah,
so
I mean, there's a lot of guys in Charlotte that would have said the same thing, but I think it took one person starting it. But I think if I'm giving you feedback from what I've seen, because I have clients all over
yeah.
the country, is you'll get the clients who appreciate the extra due diligence, right? People who have had the bad builder, which are the ones you really want because they appreciate the different experience. Getting used to selling that could be, and I've seen people be successful in finding better clients because they've gone the route of the cheap bid guy and they want someone that knows and can articulate more of a process. So It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just something to get some skin in the game can go a long way.
Yeah, and it's not every project that we're bidding. I mean, we got a lot of word of mouth people coming.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got and I got people that because like I said, I'm a real estate broker as well. I'm getting them lots, and they're coming to us guaranteed because they like me. They saw my video. They're they're buying into me, the person in the video, versus shopping around for other builders. But I mean, people. There's also the people that say, "Well, we're going with you," but we do take an upfront deposit though to kind of lock them in
Okay.
too. That's one thing we do to guarantee that, this is a guaranteed deposit, meaning we're going to move forward with plans, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we've
Got it.
done to kind
Yeah,
of
that's cool. That's helpful for sure.
get around that too. What are some other things, contractors should be focused on rather than sales, in your opinion?
I mean, it kind of depends on the target audience, but there's a couple of, I would say, just in general, at a high level, like you said, content creation, like telling the story more, putting your opinion, your thought process, your problem solving skills out there. People tend to follow that. They buy into that. They like the way it does it. But I think outside of that, I mean, I would say in general, connecting with your marketplace more, like doing more things to like be in person and give back and be seen, and highlighting local organizations and just finding a better way to build relationships with your marketplace. I think a lot of builders get stuck in that I'm an operator, I'll just spend money on lead sources and that'll be enough for me. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
You went as far as becoming a real estate agent. I'm not sure which one came first for you, but clearly you build relationships first, right? That's
Yeah.
your primary focus, and that turns into the value and the problems they trust that you can solve for them on the back end. So I think a lot of builders get stuck like head in plans, head on projects, and forget that like they need the marketplace to believe and trust and know them in order for them to do what they're doing. And I think I meet a lot of people that think like, some marketing company sold them on a $10 or $20,000 a month program that's supposed to deliver high quality leads. And like, they might be able to give you the highest quality leads, but those are still not the highest quality leads, right? I mean, referrals and, word of mouth and reputation is by far a much higher close rate, but there's still people that spend tens of thousands of dollars a month on leads and advertising. And it's just, in my opinion, not the right way or not the only way to go about building a relationship and building your business with the marketplace that you serve.
Yeah, no, I agree because a lot of those leads too aren't going to be the leads you want. I mean, if I just relied on that, I'd be getting leads that couldn't afford to build with us. I mean, it
Yep.
happened. Yeah, we use Google and stuff like that to promote website traffic, but I have to kind of funnel through those leads too, because we have a messenger system on our site. I get it all the time. First thing when I get the what's your square price per square foot, right there, to me, I know what's coming. They're probably just shopping price in general. That's what they're shopping. And I always respond to that. I go, we're a custom builder. What's your budget? And then when I get 500,000 with lot down here, our prices lots in general on the water go for 300,000 and up, just for the dirt.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, I can't touch a house for, we're minimum probably close to $400 a square foot down here. So, because it's a different world. It's all hurricane impact, block, concrete. These are
I mean, that
structurally.
number scares the crap out of anybody moving to Florida. So, but I mean, but it comes down to like, some people forget what got them where they are. Like most businesses couldn't afford those things, those leads at the beginning. They just went out and talked to people and grew their business that way. And then they got too busy to do the work that got them
Yeah.
there. And I think and obviously like, again, marketers have become better salespeople and preaching the dream to people. But a report came out earlier this year and it kind of mirrored a lot of things I've been saying for years. And it was a report from Nielsen, I think, kind of worked with Google on something. It said 92% of people are more likely to trust a referral from a friend or family than any advertising or marketing, right? 92%, which means if that's true, and I think that sounds high, but even let's say it's 80%, your advertising dollars are going to acquire the 20% of the marketplace or a fraction of the 20% of the marketplace. I want to go find the friends and family, which is a little bit harder to do, but very possible. Very, very, it's how I've built every business I've worked for. It's how I've built every business I work with. I preach and teach relationship building and how to say the right thing to the right people at the right time to get them to know, like, and trust you. And it's a process I've duplicated now dozens of times successfully.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, and reputation's everything. That's you said it to begin with too. You cannot replace, as far as sales or the reputation of a company, but to build that reputation from the start, yeah, it's a long climb, it's a long uphill battle, but it's you can't forget about who you're working with. You can't like it's all a process. And one of the things too that I learned too is putting the right pieces in place as well to keep that as you grow. Now I have a guy that's strictly dealing with warranty and customer relationship
Yeah.
stuff, to where if there's a customer that needs a plumber 5 years from now, I want him to call my guy. I want to be top of mind all the time. And I tell our customers that too. I didn't have that. Me and my brother were the ones dealing with everything, but putting that piece in place has taken a weight off of both of our shoulders. Because warranty is not easy, but it's a must do thing. It's you gotta follow. Me and my brother have gone to people's houses. My brother just did it this past Sunday. I called him because I was up in Naples. He was down where the house was that we built on Marco Island, and customer called. He said my garage door is not closing. Somebody needs. It's Sunday. I'm sorry to bother you. I was like, let me call my brother, see if he's close by. He'll look at it. He went over there, looked at it. We ended up getting a guy there and taking care of him. And the guy's like, man, he goes, you guys are awesome. I wasn't even home. The garage door's fixed, blah, blah, blah. But long story short, it's just going above and beyond too, which not a lot of people are willing to do.
Well, and that's an easy place, easy in quotation marks to differentiate yourself is it's one of the biggest complaints of homeowners. I never actually got my warranty walkthrough. The
Yeah.
builder never came back. I had to call 10 times. If you look at what the client experience is and what people talk about, is the warranty process. It's a huge part of the client experience because look, they remember how you start, they remember how you finish, right? And that's really how you walk away with the taste you leave in the mouth. Like you don't want a phenomenal $800,000-900,000 project to go like crap over a garage door track or a motor, right? Like that you just like couldn't find time to get to. They won't refer you because of that, because you dropped the ball on the last thing they needed from you. That's a really big, important thing to focus on and not difficult to implement and execute on, but difficult to prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
So, congratulations. Great job.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes into the next thing too, though, is so obviously dealing with customers too. They've said the customer is always right, right? Most of the time. And the building world too, it's there's stuff that the customer isn't right about. And this comes down to us as the contractors have to learn to explain stuff. But what is the best way for a contractor to handle customer issues in your opinion?
I guess it depends on what part of the process it happens, right? Are you like, are you in the design phase still, or are you like on final punch out, right? I think it's a different approach. But I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing is take ownership, have empathy, um, approach it from the perspective of what would I do if this were me? What would I want somebody to do for me? Like think maybe outside the construction industry, like if your car was having an issue, how would you want your mechanic to handle that? You'd want them to take initiative, take ownership,
Hmm.
handle it as best as possible, charge as fairly as possible if necessary. I think too many contractors miss that part of it. They want to divert blame to the sub. They want to blame the architect. They want to blame everybody else. But the bottom line is like the name on that check is, Mike Claudio Builders. Mike Claudio needs to own that problem from start to finish, regardless of whose problem it is. It's my problem. And I think a lot of people tend to divert blame and kind of come up with excuses as opposed to saying, you know what, this is wrong. And here's the biggest part I think that a lot of builders miss. And maybe you've experienced this, and if you have, I'd love your feedback on it. But you try and jump in and solve that problem immediately without seeing the whole picture. Like you try, a
Hmm.
client says, I have a complaint, like, let me get that fixed right away, right? That's also not correct. Sometimes there's an alternative, like you gotta go talk to your project manager, go talk to your sub, find out why it was done that way, and telling the client, hey, I agree with you. This does not appear to be accurate, but let me do some research on my side. Let me talk to the subs. I can't solve anything for you right now anyway, so it doesn't make sense for me to
Yeah.
try. But it's the person who goes in and goes like, "Hey, I need to take that is wrong. I get to take care of this right now." And you go make 50 phone calls yelling at people. That doesn't bode well for your business long term either. So sometimes it's okay to say, "Hey, look, I agree with you. This does not look right. Let me talk to my team. We find out what's going on, why it was done this way." Because sometimes there's a good explanation as to why. Like a lot of times clients think done is done when done isn't done yet, right?
Yeah. No, I
The
agree.
trim work or the paint or the sanding or like hey, this isn't like, this paint color is wrong, lady, that's the primer. Like, can we calm down, please? Right? Like, so I think sometimes just digging into the situation a little bit first before jumping to conclusions and either getting defensive with the client or upset with your subs, taking that extra step to get all perspectives on what happened and why, so you can articulate back to the client. And what I really think from a best practice there is tell them like, hey, here's what happened. I'm taking ownership, but here's your options. A, you fix it. B, you fire us. Like, I don't want to be rude, but like those are the options. Like here's your options. A, B, or C. Look, I'm willing to split it with you. You can go another direction and find a different sub, or you can fire us all together and start from scratch. Those are all your options.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to like, hey, I guess I'll just cover all of this one, but like then I'm kind of out of money that I can cover things for. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, you can't take ownership of everything from a financial perspective, but you can present options. Here's your options.
No, you're speaking my language, man. Because you're right there. Yeah, I just had that actually. Going off of that, I had that with a client recently where it was with a paint color, exterior paint color, and his wife. I mean, we're very good about getting everything in writing and
Yeah.
having everything signed off on and so on, which a lot of builders, once we can get into that, aren't, and they
No.
don't cover their ass. So it's just, you have to, and especially in custom home building. So the wife okayed a certain paint color, but the husband did not. Husband comes into town, exterior paint's done, all pissed off, completely not wrong color, doesn't look like the picture I sent you guys. I sent you this picture. What is going on? Just right out of nowhere, just doesn't. It's because the patience thing, we can get into that too. Patience is kind of a thing of the past. So it's really, like you said, having to have that conversation, learn these people too. I mean, that's sales 101. Learn your customer, know who you're talking to and how to talk to them too. Because to be honest, the better I've gotten at sales over the years I've been doing it, I talk to customers differently because I know their personalities.
Oh, you gotta match your client. You gotta
Yeah,
match your audience for sure.
it's just, that's the thing. I may have Mrs. Hill over here and then another guy over here. Well, she's a little softer. I got to be more softer to her. Where this guy, I got to be more stern to him. So it's just, you learn that customer. But this guy's just like, this is unacceptable. Blah blah blah. We need to meet out at the job now. So I'm always the one that has to deal with it. Obviously, the girl in our office, she can't,
Yeah,
and so she goes,
that's
"Can you
not her
call him
fault.
this and that?" I called him. I was like, "Listen, let me look at what's going on. Just like you said, let me look into this, see what happened. I'll get back to you. I'm not going to meet you on the job site right now. I've seen the job. I don't know how many times. I know the color. It's not necessary for me to walk out there so you can point at the wall. I know what's going on." So he's like, "All right, call me back when you can." He understood. So I
And I
go
think
over, I
that's the
look.
problem too, is like, you didn't tell them no, you just said no, not right now,
Yeah,
right? And I think most clients understand that. And as long as you give them an acceptable alternative expectation, they just want to know something's going to happen
yeah.
and by when. Right. And I think that's a really big miss for people, just like you said, like would have just driven out there and gotten yelled at for 2 hours and would have accomplished nothing, probably talk themselves in
We would
circles.
have been right where I was, where I had to look into it no matter what,
Yep.
and
I think
I have the similar situation with my guy that does our bidding. He was dealing with our subcontractor. Our subcontractor flipped out because the customer said, "I want this driveway done now. It's a driveway addition or whatever." But my subcontractor, he's busy. He's got a lot of other full driveways he's putting in. Additions aren't the first thing on his list. So I had to tell my guy that works for me, "Listen, you can't call him and say, 'I need you out there.' Let me talk to him. I'll talk to him, relax, blah, blah, blah." Talk to my sub. He's like, "Yeah, Bill, I'm just telling you, man, your customer's been on me. He's been on me, this and that." I was like, "Listen, get out there when you can." I understand. I go, what's the longest time frame that you can get out there?" And he goes, "I can make it out there probably maybe this weekend, but next weekend for sure." Okay, boom. Let's give the customer the long time frame by next weekend rather than telling them, "Oh, he'll be here this weekend," then the guy doesn't show up. So
Even a as soon as possible is incredibly irrelevant in the process.
there you go. So but going back to the paint thing, to resolve that problem with the paint, I was basically ended up going through everything. I saw his picture. The girl in our office had a copy of the picture the guy sent. The wife approved it. He said his wife didn't mean to approve it. Whatever. It's he said, she said at that point.
Oh.
So how do we appease the customer? Let's okay, work on this with me. I'll get a bid to repaint the exterior of the house. Let me see what I can do. Got my painter down a little bit on the bid. All right, let's meet. Maybe I'll pay this amount, you pay this amount, just like you said. Problem solved. Customer was happy in the end, and we moved on, and he thanked
And
us
most
for
people
it.
understand that, like most, I mean, especially if you do your due diligence, qualifying the client on the front end, most people understand things happen, right? And like they might be upset about it, but no, like business is still business, and like you can't lose money on things, and that's kind of part of the qualifying process on the front end, obviously, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's talk about communication a little bit too. I mean, communication's key. Let's talk about some strategies that you recommend because you deal with this all the time, trying to coach builders and people in
Yep.
construction. Follow-ups, leads, communication during the project, communication after the project. What are some strategies you highly recommend?
Oh man, that is a broad question.
Or just brush on the most important ones too.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of go through the process. I'll kind of give you two or
Yeah.
three different parts of it. So I think in like the front end, in the content, the qualifying, the website, in your social media, in your advertising, in your proposal creation, it is super, super, super important to focus on and talk about the problems your clients are having more than what you offer. Right? I think clients are over, and it doesn't work to hear about what makes you so great and how you've been in business for 30 years and how you operate with integrity, and you put the client first all the time. Well, that doesn't mean anything to the client. It's all buzzwords, and it doesn't really have any like meat behind it. So but talking about how you understand how concerning spending $1 million can be, how distracting the selection process can be, how overwhelming the design process can be, how concerning how to pick out the right lot, how to decide what's worth the upgrade and what's worth the downgrade, how to decide what architect, how to decide what builder. These are all things your clients are dealing with and thinking. If you can give them answers to that, they immediately feel more comfortable with you than you saying, we've been building for 30 years. You should trust us. That just doesn't work anymore. I always use the same analogy here is, you see a lot of builders and contractors, say things like, um, we operate with integrity and we put the client first, right? You've heard that a lot over the years, I'm
Yeah. Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Right. Well, that only works if your competition is say, hire us at your own risk. We might take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody can say you operate with integrity. There's no meaning behind it. But if you can talk about, and like you said, the videos you show around the problems you solve and how you solve them and why you solve them that way, that person who's doing their research and like I talked about earlier, meeting them where they are in their decision process, answering the questions they have 3, 6, 12, 18 months before they make a decision puts you at the top of the list. So you putting out that consistent content, in your case, just little things that people might have questions about, or why you might pick up a new architect because the architect says like, hey, I'm tired of my builders dropping the ball on this feature. This guy shows he knows how to do it because he's been putting content out around it. I feel comfortable referring my client to him, right? So doing those things consistently and really focusing on the problems you solve more than the solutions you offer is super, super important. um, so from a, I would say, once the project starts perspective, that's kind of like the sales part of it, right? The
Mhm.
marketing. Once the project actually starts, it's super important, in my opinion, to have a very detailed understanding of how, when, and on what platform clients should be communicating with you on. I think we get in the habit of like being available when they call, right? And clients will just pull and push, and they don't
Oh, yeah.
care if it's Sunday morning or Tuesday night or whatever. So having a set process for, I like doing some sort of an on-site communication folder. Like if you have questions, if it's an emergency, call 911. If not, put in this notebook, we'll check it tomorrow. Right? I think some sort of a back and forth communication, because really, like if you look at it, clients, especially on the remodel side, like not so much in the custom home because they're not like coming home to it every day, but
Yeah.
especially on like the remodel side where like you're in their life and they come home from work and it's 9 o'clock at night and they're walking around, they see something, they're gonna want to communicate to you. If you don't tell them how, they're gonna text you, they're gonna email you, they're gonna call
Mhm.
you. But if you say like, hey, look, we leave the job site at 6 o'clock so we can go spend time with our families, if you have any questions, concerns, thing you want us to address tomorrow, please write it in this notebook that's right here in the same spot every day. And the first thing my project manager is going to do when he gets here tomorrow is look at that notebook to see if there's any additional items that you brought up, and then we will address them at that time. If you don't tell them what to do, why would you expect them to know not to call you at 9 o'clock? That might just be how they communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're world, maybe they're doctors, maybe they don't come home till 10 o'clock at night. Well, to them, that's just the end of the workday. They don't realize that you've been working since 4 or 5 a.m. And to be quite frank, they don't care.
Yeah.
But so give them the guidelines, give them how to communicate, give them understand like how change orders operate. What is that process? Where does that live? Where do selections live? Where do manuals live? Where does the back and forth around to-dos and touch points and touch up and punch list and all these things that go on in a project, especially in a custom home? There's so many variables. There's so many conversations and so many decisions. If you don't have a set process to how to organize those things in a way that the client understands and feel comfortable communicating that way, there's gonna be a gap in expectations, and that's where real client dissatisfaction comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the during side. I think on the back end, I'm really big on follow up and appreciation. You know, I have sent gifts to the first client I ever had 5 years later just because I wanted them to still think about me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm big on year end gifts, mid year gifts, leave behinds, appreciation, not just for clients, but referral partners and subs. Like, people don't have to do business with you. They don't have to do business with you again. Subs don't have to work for you. So I want them to know that, like, hey, I might not always be able to pay you what you want to be paid. You may need to negotiate some things. You may need to come down. You may, as a client, you may need to spend more than you want. I want you to know that I see that and appreciate that. So I think it's super important to appreciate and show gratitude. I've done everything from a standard gift basket for kitchen remodels to X percentage of the project goes back to the client or referral partner. And it could be like let's say you build a custom home. Let's do a neighborhood party for that person. I'll bring the food truck and the beer. You invite all your neighbors. Hey, I get to meet all the neighbors, and you get to show off your new home, which you want to do anyway, right? So a lot of that kind of like that back end, that retouch, that client appreciation, I think is super important to do consistently, and don't lose sight of that. I think it's a massive game changer for people to just like get that wow factor, that handwritten note, that personalized gift, that thing that you remembered they said from 8 months ago. That wow, that unexpected wow, it really changes how clients perceive you over the long term.
Yeah, and it's what you said right there too. Touching on that is huge. I mean, I do it every. I'm about to do it. I'm about to break my wrist for Christmas. I do it every single year for Christmas. I handwrite Christmas, even just the past homes we built, even if they've been resold. Just letting people know that you're in a Ryman construction home. If you need anything, here's my contact. Call me. Here's my social media if you want to watch, check it out, blah blah blah. Here's my podcast. Just reaching out them and getting in touch with these people, especially newer people that are in one of the houses we built, not even knowing we built it. Because if they end up loving that house, obviously they bought it. Who are they going to refer? They're going to refer us.
Right.
So it's just letting them know too, and growing that, like you said. But a lot of the stuff you said too is kind of, a lot of builders don't do it, is set the expectations as much as possible for people. It's just,
Especially on the communication side, because you're dealing with that client for years sometimes,
oh
right?
yeah,
And like, if you don't control it and mitigate it and give them a guideline to operate by, they will absolutely wear your ass out.
yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, yeah, and that's, I see it all the time too. It's just I see it with the girl that works for me. I mean, she does the selection process for us, and
Oh, geez.
and I yeah, and I gotta
It makes
tell,
me comfortable just saying it.
yeah, and I don't know how many times I gotta consult with her just to be like, all right, have them call me. Let me deal with it. Let me
Yeah.
have them talk to me. If I got one customer right now, man, that, geez, it took them 3 years to just get the plans done. Can you imagine just the interior of this house? That's a 4,500 square foot house. Like, they measure, they're looking at the blueprint so close that they're measuring the drywall on the walls and how much that's going to take out of their room. So, just imagine how, just the things that this customer does, cabinets by the inch why is this cabinet door swinging? It's just little minute stuff that's like, it's wearing the girl in my office out, and she's like, we're going to have a talk with a customer, and it's going to come to that too. We have an electrical walkthrough coming up. We're going to have to sit down and be like, listen, let us build your home. That's what you hired us to do, you
Well,
know?
and I think what a lot of builders underestimate is, and maybe you've gone through this season at some point. So I think everybody does, where it's just another client to you. It's just another project to you. But like for the client, like they've been dreaming of this house potentially for a decade. And I think you have to keep that in mind in the
Yeah.
process and understand, like, you got to check yourself sometimes, because yeah, you've been dealing with the same issues with the same framers and the same drywall guys and the same clients bitching about this or that. That client has potentially saved for a long time and been dreaming of this house for a long time, especially in the world you're in, and that, that higher end, definitely waterfront type property. You know, if you don't match that for the duration of the project, they will start to question you on a number of fronts and start to question your intent and start to question your control,
Hmm.
your quality, all these things. And because they don't feel like you're as bought into their project as they are, sometimes you got to fake it. Like, I mean, like, I know you look at projects and do punch lists all the time, but like that person's at the end of a very, very long journey for them. For you, it's just another punch list day, but for them, it's like, they're concerned, is my house going to end up the way I want it to, and these issues going to get resolved. And I think, just like you said earlier, mirroring and matching your audience and being in that ecosystem, I think, is super, super important.
Yeah, it's like you said too. I mean, we're in a relationship. I don't know up where you're at, but it's we're down here. These builds are taking us on, let's say, a 4,500 square foot house. It's 18 months,
Yeah.
and that's construction time. That's not even permitting, planning, all that. So it's 2.5 years by the time we're done with these things. It's a long process to build these because there's
Oh
so
yeah.
much into them. So not in that, and then you include that one, the typical 1 year warranty. After that, you're tied to these people for 3 years. So it's a long time to not pay attention to what they want and not respect them. And it's you, because in the end you're with them this whole entire time, so you want that relationship, no matter what, to be the best relationship ever. That
Yeah.
goes back to me responding to a guy on Sunday. Do I want to respond on a Sunday? No, but it was a text message. It's simple, just to get back to him by text. Took me 2 seconds. I called my brother, see if he's around. If not, the guy would have had to wait till Monday. And I would just said, you're gonna have to wait till Monday till we can get out there and somebody's near you, and just manually close the garage, pull the little lever. It'll come right down. So, it's just going above and beyond. And then, man,
Ah, it's
it's
good. And it shows in the success you've had and the reputation you've built and the awareness you have. I mean, I think that makes the sales process a lot easier as well, right? People just
yeah.
trust you and know that they can trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, one thing I think I saw this on your website, is creating a message that matters to clients. So, how can a construction company create a message that matters to clients?
So I use, I'm not sure I'll be able to give the full lesson on this call, but so I use a similar formula, we'll call it, for message creation that I think aligns. I said it, I kind of talk a little bit earlier around like leading with the problems, but I use the same formula. It's problem, cause, solution, benefit. What is the problem you're experiencing? Why are you experiencing it? What do I think you should do about it? And what will you get if you do that thing, right? Problem, cause, solution, benefit. And I think if you're able to look at a target audience, and it could be any relationship, honestly, like your wife, your kids, your subs, your employees, what is the problem? Why is it happening? What do you think we should do about it? And what will happen if that person decides to go that route? And it could be as simple as like you're giving them, hey, if you're concerned about hiring the right custom home builder on the coast in Florida, here are 5 things you should ask somebody to make sure that you're hiring the right person. I know I'm concerned. I know it's because I'm out of the area. I'm moving to Florida. What are these 5 questions? How does that help me? Right? A problem, cause, solution, benefit. It meets that client in their decision process. It could be a sub. Hey man, like this is the problem we're experiencing right now from the client's upset about this. Is I think it happened because of this. Here's what I think we should do about it. As opposed to we got to do this right now, and here's why we got it. Then like it's just a different approach. It gets them on seeing that you see things from their perspective. You understand why their perspective is that way. You don't have to agree with it, but your ability to articulate that you understand it. Like I use this a lot. We're referral partners, right? Like let's use a real estate agent as an example, right? hey, real estate agent, I know it's super important for you to stay in the trusted advisory role of your client base. And that way you can keep the referrals, you can keep those relationships long term. Well, that can't happen if you're referring subs that don't deliver, don't show up, and don't communicate professionally. This is why I think working with Mike Claudio Construction be a great way. Our 5-step process in order to make sure you're communicating with and your clients are being taken care of helps you feel confident referring up. Basically, but it's basically understanding that, hey, now I'm connecting with that real estate agent in a way that relates to their problem first. And like, with all the content you create, you have about 6 seconds to grab their attention. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you more likely to grab their attention talking about a problem they have or talking about a solution you have. 99% of the time, it's going to be talking about a problem they have. So, problem, cause, solution, benefit. I look at every situation and say, what is the emotional problem that this situation has? Why is it happening? What do I think we should do about it? And what do I think the outcome of that solution would be related to the emotional problem that's happening? So you look at everybody in your ecosystem, your clients, what are the problems? What are they feeling emotionally? Why are they feeling that way? Your subs, what are they dealing with emotionally? Why are they feeling that way? Your mom, your brother, your sister, your son, your wife, your husband, what are they emotionally upset about? Why are they that way? What do I think they should do about it? We're getting and kind of meeting them on their ground first creates a field, a commonality, a common ground, allows them to hear your perspective as opposed to leading with your perspective first, creates that barrier, creates that pushback, creates that kind of combativeness because you haven't proven that you understand the other person's point of view yet.
Yeah, what like what you just said is huge. I mean, too, and everybody that's listening. I mean, I'm personally going to listen to that again too. I'd love to hear more about it. Obviously, if we had plenty of time, I'm sure you can go more into detail. But people
Episode
can,
two, we'll do
yeah,
version two of
episode
this.
two, and I'm sure people can find it with your content too,
Oh
because
yeah, it's everywhere.
it's huge. It's all about listening. I mean, a lot of it is listening to the client, listening to what their wants and needs are, and actually hearing them too, because there is a problem with it, and especially in sales, that people are too much on top of telling clients what they need, and that's the thing. It's especially with real estate too. If you don't listen to what they want, you can go and show 15 houses in a day, and by the time you're done showing these houses, they don't even know what they saw the first. They don't even remember the first. I don't even know how many people have come in to me dealing with realtors that are, obviously referencing us as a builder, and they're like, oh, you're like the eighth builder we've talked to, we've seen so many models, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm the last one, because you're going to remember me more than the first guy. So it's just, if they would actually listen to, I've had realtors bring me clients that want to build a 22 or 2000 square foot house with a $500,000. I can't, I always obviously talk to the realtor first. What's your client looking for?
Mhm.
But most of the time they don't know because they don't listen, and that's the problem too. Funnel out me as that higher end builder, because they're not going to go with us. You're wasting my time, their time, and your time, and figure out what exactly they want, if they're on a certain budget and so on, and who they can go with, and who they should be with. So
Yep.
that's huge what you said
So I
too.
think when you're creating a message that matters, it really comes down to understanding the emotional problems that your audience in that specific scenario is having and why they're having it. And I think if you can do that effectively, you'll have someone be like, "Oh my God, he's talking right to me," and it's through like a social media content, right? I get that all the time. It's like, Mike, are you in my head? No, I have a target audience. I know exactly what you're dealing with. I've coached over 60 businesses in the last 2 years. Trust me, I say the same thing pretty often,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
helps me build credibility, which I think is really cool.
exactly. So you being a coach, what would you recommend builders do to help customers select, and we kind of brushed on this, but you select a right contractor based on quality and not just price? Because I deal with it all the time. Price,
Yeah,
price, price. How do
I
you get
would
around that?
say like doing a little bit better pre-qualification. Like I'm really big on content and articulating who would want to hire me, right? Like, you've talked a lot about like that low end square foot with that low end budget. And I would regularly use hot words and keywords in my content and my copywriting or the caption writing, however you're producing content around like, this client with a $1.2 million budget and this house that's 4,500 square feet on the ocean and this lot that costs $400,000. Like people who are following you and engaging with what you're doing will say, Well, I mean, he only works with he wants clients that are 1.2 million and $400,000 lot fees and 4,000 square feet. Well, that's not me. So I'm not going to reach out. So I tend to avoid, I try to use my content to avoid the conversations with people that wouldn't appreciate, because I tell a lot of my contact, I deal with a lot of builders in the 1 to 3 million range. Someone that's doing 250K a year can't really afford my consulting services. And someone who's doing 10 to 20 million, I don't have enough employees to really support that opportunity as best I can. So I talk a lot. Most of my clients are in that 1 to 5, $1 to $6 million range. They're people who have done something effectively, but have gotten as far as they can on their own and trying to get to that next level. I mean, you're kind of blessed because you have bigger project sizes, but not everybody's dealing at $400 a square foot, right? Like, so, but in general, I use that a lot. Like, hey, I had this $2.5 million revenue company. I had this client with 10 employees. I had this client with 3 to 5 salespeople. I try to use those key topics a lot to help my audience qualify themselves in or qualify themselves out. So you're not having to have that conversation all the time about under budgets, because you should be telling them regularly in your content that, like, here's what I'm really looking for on a regular basis, so that referral partners and people in that world, yes, do you minimize your pipeline? Sure, but you incredibly increase the quality of it.
Yeah. See, I need to listen. I'll take note of that too, because I need to listen to that because I
Hey,
was.
I'm taking on clients right now if you're interested.
I mean, and that's but what you said too, though. Like my thing is getting that out into my content. I do here and there by saying, yeah, we're a luxury builder or whatever, but I'm still not portraying that far enough to where,
But it's
you
because
know,
you can picture what luxury is. Somebody with a $500,000 budget, which is twice as much as they've ever spent on a house, still thinks they're luxury because
mhm,
they're outspending their capacity. When people overspend, they assume luxury. Everybody knows 500 grand is not buying you luxury, but to the client's perspective, they still
yeah.
think they're important. And not that they're not important, but they're not luxury, even though, but they might be outspending their capacity, which makes
Yeah,
them feel like,
they might be more of a production home, going better off going with a production home builder rather than a custom home builder, which I deal with that quite a bit. So what you're saying too, which is awesome, is that it's gonna not that it's because every builder wants to have as much work as possible and doesn't
mhm,
we like to have that opportunity coming in and so on, but it also takes time to respond to each and every if you are doing the right thing by responding, which you should be.
yeah.
Because I've got to the point where it drives me crazy if I don't respond to somebody, even though if I know,
Even your qualifying process, right? Like, it might take you an hour or two to get to the point
yeah,
that you realize, like, shit, this is not a client for me. And now I got to backtrack from all the dreams I sold them, right? Because you're trying to differentiate yourself on that first call. And
hmm
you're like talking about how amazing it's going to be and how awesome their project is. You can't wait to work with them. And they're like, oh, God, they don't have the budget. And it's like, how do you backtrack after just selling them the dream and they're excited about working with you? And then you're like, oh, God. Because then you make them feel like, what, my money's not good enough for you?
yeah, yeah,
Right? And so I rather tell them through social media, you're not good enough for me. So I don't have to tell you, like, you just figure it out on your own, than like being on the phone for 2 hours qualifying somebody or meeting them 2 or 3 times to look at plans, or maybe their architect set terrible expectations on what the build cost is going to be. And now you're the guy that has to bear the bad news. And I rather just constantly tell people, passively outbound through content creation on what does an ideal client for me look like and what does a not ideal client for me look like. Hey, if you're not prepared to wait 2.5 years to move into your house and spend $1.5 to $2 million to do that, both from the build, the land, and the furniture, you're not right for me. I'm sorry. I love you,
yeah,
but my overhead, my assets, my subs do not equate to a sub 7-figure build. Please call me. I can refer you to somebody, but understand it's not that I don't want to work with you. It's just my business model is not set up for that.
yeah.
Because
That's
here's what a
huge.
lot of people miss. And I think you probably fall victim to this too. You have a little bit of that scarcity mindset, which makes you be afraid to say no. But when you say no, you're afraid to tell them the real reason why. And when you tell somebody no and don't give them the real reason why, they create a story in their head as to why they think they weren't right for you. And 100% of the time, they're wrong and paint you in a negative way.
Hmm
Right? 100% of the time. They're never like, oh, his business model and his overhead probably just doesn't support a product. They never say that. Right? They talk crap about you behind your back. They're upset. They're frustrated. So just tell them, like, hey man, like, we're not right for you right now. Like, look, we have a limited head count. We currently have 9 projects in the ground. We're currently only taking on projects of this size for this reason. I'm sorry, but you don't fit that mold right now, so I'm gonna have to refer you to somebody else. That's the truth. So even
Mm-hmm.
if they get upset about it and talk crap about you, you can own that. But
Yeah.
somebody telling a story about you that wasn't your story to tell, and there's someone's being making something up because they're pissed off that you said no, it's really hard to combat that from an owner perspective because it's not the truth, but you didn't know what it was. But so just give them the answer. Hey, like
Mm-hmm.
I've told people like, hey man, like I don't think our personalities match. Like I'm gonna be dealing with you for the next 6 or 8 months or 12 months. I'm feeling a lot of like kind of passive aggressiveness and friction here. I'm gonna go and have to say no and walk away from this. Like they're baffled. No one, people are not used to being told no by contractors, right? I'll tell people, hey man, like, look, you're the right project and the right price, but you are not the right client. I'm gonna have to say no to this.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing is, and people, I think people, builders and contractors underestimate this by taking on that client now where you might be low pipeline, you're affecting your ability to add people to the pipeline in 6 months that are the right client because you took on a bunch of wrong clients.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's just how it works. If you're doing the machine right and you're building a business that's collecting consistent leads, you're going to hit dry spells and you're going to hit massive wealth pots, right? It fluctuates, it's cyclical. So you might be in a dry spell where you're saying no to good projects because they're not the right people. Like I want to do the right project for the right person at the right price. That is not too big or too small for a frustrated client at the highest price or the lowest price. It's just the right price. And I think if you can live by those three things, your life as a contractor gets significantly more enjoyable.
Hmm. Yeah, going off what you said, I mean, I just dealt with it today. Like, there's different aspects of it too. In the lower end of houses too, I deal with it. I always That's where the budget thing comes in. I ask them what their budget is, and then I tell them too, we're not going to compete with these guys A, B, and C for this specific reason. Overhead is one of my reasons too, because we have more overhead. We don't mass produce small homes like them as well, because a lot of these smaller home builders are the production home builder. They're doing 10, 15 homes, and their profits aren't as large versus the luxury home builder that's doing 8 homes maybe. And, so I explain it out to them as well. I don't just say, that's one thing I've learned too. I just don't say, yep, sorry, you can't afford us. You know what I mean? I've had clients that I've sold lots to as a broker. They've used me for the lot because they know I know the construction end of it. And I've told them, with your budget here, I recommend you go with this guy. Don't talk to these guys because you're going to have a bad experience. But this is a good builder in your budget. Do I hate referring other builders? Absolutely. So if you're a builder and you like referring other builders, I think you got an issue and you're probably not getting a lot of business. So, I mean, it's just, I ran into it too, man. I ran into it with a contract today. A guy completely sent me a whole different contract and said, if you agree to this contract, you got our house. It's a 6,000 square foot house. I did write him back and said, there's no way I am agreeing to your contract. We have our contract for a reason. I'm happy to work on our contract with you and maybe take some recommendations, but I'm not going with a completely different contract that was completely rewritten by a lawyer who probably charged you for, I didn't say that, but, charged them per hour for, and that's what happened. And it was a whole brand new contract. So I'm waiting to hear back from the guy too, if I even do, but I'm not willing to, and then he cut our percentage on it and so on. And it was a cost plus build. So
Well,
there's
but the
just,
purpose too, though, is like you just said. Well, maybe you don't have a lot of business. Most builders shouldn't have as much business as they. We talked about it earlier, right?
yeah,
Like 65 contracts. I don't care how big your business is. That's too
no,
many,
no. I mean, we
right?
take on
So, like
8 at a
most people
time.
should be saying no more. They should be
Yeah.
qualifying out more. They should be
Yeah.
referring more, right? And I think too many people get in that mindset. And I'm not. I don't think you're wrong, but I think too many people say, "Well, I can't get rid of this one. I can't get rid of that one. I can't." And all of a sudden, you got all these projects, and your project management team's floundered. Your design team's
Yeah.
floundered.
And then
Your
it
clients are
kills your quality.
flustered. Everybody's failing. So
Hmm.
sometimes referring more often is probably like most here's like the big picture. Most builders don't understand what the ideal client looks like from a personality, from a project type, from a budget range. So they're afraid to get that granted because they just can't picture it. It sounds like you have a pretty good understanding, but I think most builders don't have that like actually written out what an ideal client looks like. And that is the first part of my process is working with the client is understanding we need to build that avatar because it blends into the content, to the problems we talk about, to the who we prospect to who we're building relationships with, who we're asking for referrals from, where we're networking. It all comes back to like, where is my ideal client living? Because I want to put myself in as many places as possible to find that person.
Yeah, and like with us too, I've learned where where it's a good steady load to have as far as custom homes being built. And people always ask me, I mean, a lot of people will ask, they go, "Can you take us on right now? Do you have the
Yeah.
capacity to take us on?" I've been asked that multiple times, and I say, as of now, yes, because we're at this stage with this house. Everything's like an assembly line with us. We're closing on one at the end of the month, and then we're starting pilings on another one at the beginning of the month. So, everything's at different stages where we keep our subcontractors busy and we're busy to where we won't lose sight of the quality and the experience. Cause I got one girl in office. If she starts running ragged and losing her books and not paying, not being able to focus, then, it's like a domino effect. And that's in any business too, if you get ahead of yourself. So
There's
it's
always
putting
that
those.
point.
Yeah, exactly. So getting towards the end here too, I like to get a little more personal with you. A huge question here I ask everybody. What about you personally? I mean, you're building an amazing company that continues to grow every single day. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business, our own lives that can help us all grow?
I mean, it's going to sound super cliche, but I think fall in love with the process and the results will follow. Like as a coaching business, my business got hurt this year with COVID in second quarter, but I just didn't stop doing the content creation, the prospecting, the relationship building, the adding value, the giving back to my ecosystem, and I'll still double my business year over year, even though I like lost money second quarter. I was able to like kind of ramp back very quickly once people got back to operating because I just kept doing the right things and doing the things that I knew would work. Things like the podcast, the YouTube channel, the content creation on social media, the outbound reaches, the referral partners, kind of those things that kind of like are, in my opinion, are the basis foundation. I think it's really easy. I think I said it earlier too, is like you get doing certain things to get to a certain point, then you stop doing those things because you get too busy for them. You can't get too busy for the basics. Like you got to keep the process, the machine flowing, or you will hit that feast or famine pipeline, that feast or famine cash flow, where you're like really busy, then really dead. If you're experiencing that right now, it's because you are not doing the work to build your business consistently. And I'd say across the businesses that I run right now, and there's three of them, fall in love with the process and the results will follow.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you're not loving the process and building the company, you're not going to respect it in the end either. That's what it's all about, too. So,
Sure.
not a cliche answer. Great answer. I always get a good answer on that question. So,
Good. Cool. Well, I'm
different
glad
every
you
time. Another question, too. I always ask about your past. What about your future? Where will we see Mike Claudio in 10, 15, 20 years from now? Where will you be?
um oh man. Uh I'll be in a $1.6 million house on the water in Lake Norman. I will own three vehicles. I will probably have a TV show. I will continue to be on a podcast and YouTube consistently. I will have two children. I will be married. I will likely have 3 to 5 coaches working for me. My grading business will be about 5 million, and my nonprofit will be of supporting about 1 million children a year.
That's awesome. That's probably the most detailed answer I got on that question too. So it sounds like you're
I put
doing
a
some
lot of
good.
thought into where I'm headed, man.
Yeah,
It's how I know the routines. I know what I'm doing. Like,
yeah,
look, I started a nonprofit this year because I wanted to balance my blessings a little bit. It's called a Champions Shoes. It's to give back, shoes to underprivileged children because I think it's
nice,
super powerful in their mindset and their confidence and their approach. And I started that nonprofit 3 weeks ago. I've raised $15,000 and already helped 200
nice.
children. I'm just getting started. I'm barely scratching the surface on it. The grading company I started 4 months ago will do about $300,000 in its first quarter, barely scratching the surface there. My coaching business, this is my first full year. I've coached in the last 18 months about 60 companies. I'm operating all cylinders right now. I have a long runway ahead of me. I love what I do, and I know kind of exactly to an extent where I'm headed. Um, you know, I built out the vision, man. Now I'm just doing the work to get there. Like you can't rush it. I know you know this from what you do. Like you can't rush a
No.
4,500 square foot build on the lake or on the water, on the ocean in hurricane world. You can't rush it, right? I think a lot of people forget that the vision is there for a reason, but you have to reverse engineer it into stepping stones to get there. And you cannot skip steps. Like you cannot skip the work. You cannot skip the struggle. It's a big part of it. But I think 5 to 10 years from now, you'll likely see me on television. That's
Yeah, I
probably.
look for. I mean, I mean, I look for. I have no doubt too. And the thing too, like you said, the biggest thing out of that is you put in the work, and then you're going to continue to put in the work too. I mean, you're not going to snap your fingers and it's going to happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people think they can do it quick, but you can. That's in any business, any process, anything
Yep.
takes time. Unless you
Yeah. 100%.
get lucky enough to win the lottery, but not all of us are that lucky to win the lotto. So the lotto is putting in that work, right? So
Yep.
anyway, it's
100%. You got to earn
last,
it. You got to
yeah,
earn it. There's no way around it. You got to earn it.
exactly. Last question: what the show's all about? What exactly do people need to look for when hiring a or a construction coach, business coach, and why should they choose Mike Claudio and Winrate Consulting as their go-to coach?
I think the biggest thing in today's ecosystem is understanding that your coach has done and been where you want to be, right? I've grown businesses to multiple seven figures, but I have not grown to 25 million, right? So if you're a 15 to $20 million company right now, can I bring you value? Probably. There's likely somebody out there that's probably been where you are right now. But in general, when hiring a business coach, don't take fancy content and fast speaking words as like, look at what their background, look at their resume, ask them what they've really been through. What have they done? I mean, it's why I niched into this industry originally, is because I've had success in the home service industry. There's a lot of need there. There's a lot of people that could use support, and I talk it, I walk it, I do it. I'm in it. I've been in it. I've been in the trenches. So I think it's a really big thing. Like, I think there are educators and coaches out there that can teach you from their education, like books and classes they've taken. But I think it's really hard for many coaches to truly understand the ecosystem that you live in if they have not actually walked in the shoes that you
Yeah.
wear. And I've done that. And I think that's a reason, as a home service company or a builder, that I would bring a lot of value to you. I have not just been on the builder side, I've been on the sub side, obviously, as well. So I see it from a lot of perspectives. I've been on the client side as well. So I have a lot of different perspective and personal experience. I think that's kind of one of the biggest missing gaps right now in the coaching industry as a whole, is a lot of people selling systems and processes. There is no system and process for business. Every business is a little unique. You can't take a standardized approach and just plug it into your world. It takes that business coach to help tweak things, and even in your world, right? Like if I was like, hey, what's the biggest thing I can do to help you? It sounds like clearly your messaging is where we could make a lot of changes. Let's focus on that one thing. Not like, hey, here's how to sell by Mike Claudio. That's not going to work for you. You know a lot of the stuff already. But if I were to come in and make one or two tweaks to your business based on what I know, you could make substantial growth, right? Or get better, or get more profitable, or whatever it might be. I'm there to do that because I've been there and can actually walk you through what it would require to make that happen. So
Yeah, that's the thing with you too. And it goes back to you being there's so many coaches out there right
so
now, but
many.
you haven't, and you see it all over Instagram and so on. Somebody you see a coach, but with you having actual experience too, that's where I respect what you're doing too, because you don't see a lot of coaches in this industry. And if I was going to hire a coach, I'd hire you, because I mean you have that construction experience. You know how to relate to me too.
Mhm.
I'm not just going to hire a random coach that says he's a coach and a mentorship, whatever. It's just not mentorship, but just a random coach that's never done the construction business or swung a hammer. Because it goes a long way knowing the industry.
Yeah,
So, I
I
mean,
don't know
that's,
how you do without that, honestly.
yeah.
I don't know. I've never hired a business coach outside of the world I was in. So I have hired coaches, but not outside the world I'm in. Like, I can't imagine hiring somebody to help a construction company who's never been in a construction company, never sold construction projects, never, like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine that person bringing a lot of value. Like, maybe if it's like, I need to fix my books, even that, if you don't have construction experience, our books are messed up, man. Like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
hard to read, right? They're not standard business books. So there's a lot of variables there that I think are just impossible to understand and articulate without having the granular experience to do it.
Yeah. It's what you're doing is awesome, man. And Mike, I really appreciate you taking your time. I know you're busy too, coming on the show too. So, I mean, one more time, that nonprofit you're doing, mention that, but where can people connect with you as
Yeah, so
well?
it's achampionshoes.org is where you can find that. At Winrate Consulting on Instagram is the primary source I would go to. The link in bio is my link tree, kind of runs you to all my content locations. And if you're into podcasts, Big Stud Sales is my podcast. Would love for you to hop over there and check that out. Those are my, three primary locations. Highly recommended.
Social media.
Just at Winrate Consulting on
Okay.
Instagram. Yep.
Cool. Mike, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate your time tonight. A lot of great info. I personally learned a lot. That's why I love doing this too.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, thanks for taking your time, bro.
For sure.
Yeah, so everybody listening, thank you all for listening, and I will see you guys on the next episode.